our featured speaker for the evening, the Honorable James E. Clyburn.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much for introducing and presenting me here this evening. Now, I'm doing as I was told. I was asked if I would wear the cap that I wore during the inauguration, and I have done so. These lights here are pretty warm, so I may not keep this cap on for the duration. But to answer the question as to why I wore that cap, and many people have asked, why did you wear that cap? And I did so because I knew that with this inauguration, there would be a rebirth, a surge, if you please, of enrollments at HBCUs, if for no other reason, and I think maybe the main reason. Kamala Harris making history as the first woman and first woman of color to serve as vice president of the United States, and a member of an African-American sorority and a graduate of an HBCU. I knew that that would probably lead to a new awakening of interest in HBCUs. And I wanted to make sure that when that awakening took place, that people knew about my alma mater, of which I'm proud to be a part of. Now, I've got on the cap, which I'm now going to take off because I'm perspiring under it. But I decided to also wear what became my favorite outfit during the campaign last year, this vote with South Carolina State's logo, because I wanted to emphasize tonight that we are at an inflection point in this country. And I want to just say to everybody how important it is for us to think about what's going on in this country and how we can be a part of curing those things that ails, and what you can do, not just as South Carolina State graduates, but as individuals. Look for examples, and I want to congratulate General Beagle for the outstanding work he's doing. At Fort Jackson, I know that he's about to leave, and I want to thank him for all that he's done to help make South Carolina State proud and help make me proud. I was very proud this past week when South Carolina and Fort Jackson were in the news. I was quick to say to people, I know who the general is. He's a South Carolina State graduate. And like South Carolina State graduates, he will get to the bottom of this and he will do the right thing. And I want to thank him for proving me right in this particular instance. Now, I know you just heard that I'm a 1962 graduate of South Carolina State. Well, let me tell you why that is. When I graduated from South Carolina State, I finished all my work in 1961, December of that year. But South Carolina State was not allowed to have but one graduation a year. You couldn't have a spring graduation. You could not have a December graduation. You could only have one commencement a year. That was not true at the University of South Carolina. But it was true for us. And so that although I was had finished all my work, had graduated, and was teaching down in Charleston, South Carolina, I was required by law and policy to come back in May of 1962 to march, which I never did. I had planned to do so. I had already requested and gotten leave to go back and march on that Monday. But on that Friday evening, when I got home from school, in my mail was my diploma or my degree. And when I saw that, I said, what do I need to go and march for? And so I never marched and never went back. But I point that out to you today because I want you to think about something. Times have changed and things have changed. We now have graduations 2 and 3 a year, like other schools. And what we need to do is begin to change the South Carolina State with it. Just this past a week ago, I believe, this past Monday, a former governor of the state visited the campus. And I was amazed when she talked about, compared South Carolina State with what she called the school next door, and made reference to the fact of what she thought was wrong in South Carolina State. Said, we got to take the politics out of the school. My God, who put the politics in the school? We never put politics into that school. Politics was put into that school when they got rid of the entire board of trustees several years ago over a political lie, like we see going on in Washington today over a political lie. Nobody was stealing money at South Carolina State. Even I personally was accused of misusing money at South Carolina State. All the money they said was missing was still sitting up in Washington. And so we didn't put politics in the school. The other thing was that we need to allow people out of state to serve on the Board of Trustees. Well, we have been trying to do that for 20 years. There's something wrong with saying that you can graduate from the school, you can send your money to the school, but you cannot have anything to say about how we run the school. I want you to think about something. Ella and I looked at our graduating class back in 1961, and we found something interesting. Over 80% of our classmates left the state of South Carolina. They didn't leave because they wanted to. They left because they could not find the kind of employment to pursue their professions in South Carolina. So they left. Many of our classmates built tremendous wealth and could contribute to the school, but didn't feel obliged to contribute to the school if they couldn't have anything to say about how the school was run. Certainly we need to change the law to allow South Carolina State graduates who live outside of the state, who have made their wealth outside of the state, go serve on the Board of Trustees. They used to have that kind of rule up in North Carolina A&T. They got rid of it. And when they got rid of it, one of their graduates living out there in California, who I know very well, politely wrote the school a check for $10 million. And she made it very clear she was not going to do it if she could have any say so as to how they spent it. Yes, she's now on the Board of Trustees. The school next door recently got a big hunk of change, as we would say, from Zoom. And they immediately put a person from Zoom on the Board of Trustees. And they're going to be getting more money for Zoom. And so we've got to change. We can't hold on to those old rules and regulations. They're going to go on and leave us behind. We need to build enrollment at our alma mater. I gave out 175 scholarships last August. And I was very disappointed to see that around 25 or 30 of those scholarships went to the school next door. Only 4 or 5 to South Carolina State. I love that school. But for that school, I would not be where I am today. And I think so many others, like you just heard from Darius Leonard, the love he has for the school. But we have got to come together as alumni, and we have got to seek the change that we need to bring our alma mater in to the 21st century. I often tell the story. My friend John Thompson, out there in California, some of you may know him, the chairman of the board of Microsoft, is a graduate of Florida A&M. He writes big checks to the school because the school allows him to have something to say about its policy. I think that we will all do ourselves well. If you don't live in the state, get involved in the activities of the state. Get involved, not just in South Carolina State. That's why I wore this vote shirt this evening. Things are getting serious in this country. And I just want to say to you, in closing, South Carolina State is an 1890 school. And if you look at the charter of 1890 schools, you find something interesting. A lot of people know that the 1890 schools or the land-grant schools that were established when the first land-grant school established in the 1860s did not allow black people to attend. And so the same person who created Mr. Morrow, the Morrow Light that created the schools like Clemson University, came back and wrote another bill in 1890. He was still there, and so he wrote this bill so that you could have land-grant schools in the former slave states. And South Carolina State was one of those schools. In the charter, it talks about agriculture, and it talks about other things, but it also talks about the military, training people for the military. And no HBCU in the United States of America has done better at that than South Carolina State University. You just heard from General Beagle, a tremendous record of 22 general officers and over 2,000 officers. South Carolina State has a proud tradition. And as I close, I want to remind everybody, in spite of what that statewide public official said several years ago when he said publicly that the only people who go to South Carolina State are the people who can't go anywhere else. Well, the fact of the matter is that is just absolutely not true. That's another lie. I don't know if I could have gone anywhere else or not because I never applied anywhere else. I never applied to but one school, because that's the only school I ever wanted to go to since I was a little child. And I love that school. That school has meant a lot to me. It's meant a lot to other people. Let's fight for that school. Let's don't let anybody say anything degrading about that school. And let's bring it back to its glory days. As I said in the outset, there's a big resurgence on the campuses of HBCUs. I want South Carolina State to be a part of that resurgence. I have been asked in the last several weeks to write letters of recommendations to HBCUs all over because people are having trouble getting into them. Let's make sure that we don't get left out of that. So thank you so much for what you've done for your alma mater. Thank you so much for what I know you're going to do for this alma mater, but let's be sure that we understand that there are forces out there that will close down that school if they had the chance. There are sources out there that would bring back Jim Crow laws if they had a chance. And if you don't believe it, look at this morning's headlines or look at yesterday's headlines and see what kind of caucus is being formed in the United States Congress to take this country back to the Anglo-Saxon traditions. That means only one thing, and you know what that means. You and I must resist that with everything that is within us. We must not allow our children and grandchildren to live in existence that our parents and grandparents lived. Sing the praise of alma mater. Be loyal, sons and daughters, and rally to her cause. Thank you and Godspeed.